wonderful year planned.
Oh, wonderful.
Spending my vacation in the summer sun. Getting lots of action, having lots of fun. Scoring like a bandit to the bumble birds. Somebody got to be September birds. Woe is me.
Personally, I think that being late demonstrates terrible leadership qualities. Well, I'm not waiting anymore. Here she is. Well,
We're gonna be late. Let's go.
Geometry and history is just a pain. Biology and chemistry destroys my brain. Well, don't they know that I deserve a better fate? I'm really much too young.
when your cousin Sandy told me you were coming to school in America, I said, Sandy, any cousin of yours is a cousin of mine.
Hey, you caught it. How tall are you? Never mind. We'll put high heels on your sneakers, and we'll make you a center.
And I saw this angel hopping down the street. I said, hey, pretty baby, how's about a date?
Hello, boys.
Good morning, Miss Mason.
I would really love to see all of you in music appreciation this year, okay?
I'd like to see all of you in music appreciation this year.
You just might.
Oh, I think I'm in love.
We're gonna rock, we're gonna roll, we're gonna rock, we're gonna roll.
It's better to play with a group than with yourself.
We're going prowling. We're going prowling. Tonight.
What is the best time of the month for a woman to conceive?
At night?
Production.
Reproduction, put your pollen tube to work.
Reproduction.
Reproduction, make my steaming go berserk.
Reproduction.
I don't think they even know what a pistol is.
I got your pistol right here.
I've missed my last 2 periods.
That's all right, dear. You can make them up after school.
What are you gonna be when you grow up?
A burden on society.
Grease 2, the feeling goes on forever.
Hey there, Ernie here. So rewind the clock some 35 odd years or so. 1982. Summer of 1982 to be exact. I was only about 11 or 12 years old, and I haven't even begun to develop as a full-blown film lover. I was pretty much your stereotypical kid movie fan, and I basically my diet of movies was pretty much study with action, martial arts movies, horror movies, science fiction movies, fantasies, and silly comedies. So, needless to say, back then you weren't gonna see me seeing too many dramas or like long blown out dramas or anything like that, like say with the rare exceptions of like say Gone with the Wind or something. And a genre in particular that I really never really spent much time watching was the theatrical musical. As a kid, there were only 2 musicals I clearly remember watching back then, and that was The Sound of Music, which was almost an annual tradition when it was on TV, and the original Grease from 1978. Now, I'm almost positive that I saw Grease, the original, with the family in the movie theater. I can't really say for sure, I can't remember, but I know Grease was one of my favorite musicals when I really wasn't much of a fan of musicals. I mean, the extent of my musical films was either from live action Disney films that involve musicals, music, and or the animated films and the Walt Disney animated films. With at the time, I think the typical Disney movie only had like 3 songs in it. So my palette of musical movies was very slim to none. So back then in the early 80s, there weren't that many musicals coming out. And what very few I've seen, I barely remember. And one of the ones that I do remember seeing, now I did not see in the theater, was Grease 2. Now, the only reason I knew Grease 2 was because I liked the original Grease, and I thought it was a fun musical. But like many people back in 1982, I'm pretty certain, and albeit I was only 11 or 12 when I saw this on cable when it finally aired, I was not a fan. And obviously, I was not a fan for the reasons that were to put the movie down because one, it didn't have the original cast. Two, the songs were nowhere near as good as the original. And basically, by that rationale, the movie was just a turkey. So I never really spent much time watching Grease 2. And it's been literally a good 20, maybe 25, maybe even 30 years since the last time I legitimately watched Grease 2. I can't even remember where it was that I watched it. Most likely just on TV or cable or something like that. But one of the great things about film is that you're only committing 2 hours to something, so that those 2 hours you can spend actually re-examining a movie that you may not have liked from long ago. I've done that on some occasions where movies I've watched, like for example, Caveman, a comedy with Ringo Starr and Dennis Quaid. Back in the 80s, I thought that was one of the funniest comedies I ever saw. It was so funny, but then I revisited it and I was like, this is not that funny. This does not hold up well at all, like in comparison to, say, like The Naked Guns or Airplane. But Grease 2 definitely is one of those films that, having revisited it after such a long distance between viewings, that I can actually, and now that I am a full-blown film lover and I can appreciate all levels of film, that I can look at it through a new lens, and I could actually appreciate it for what it was as opposed to what I thought it should have been. And first, in terms of original musicals, even to this day, that is something that is very rare to see. And Grease 2, by all measures, is an original musical. Granted, it is a sequel to a film that was adapted from a Broadway musical, but Grease 2 is an entirely original story with original songs, and I'm hard-pressed to think of any other full-blown musicals from that back in the 80s, and let alone anything post then, to this day, where we get films like La La Land or The Greatest Showman, or mashups like Moulin Rouge, which I absolutely loved. But the majority of the musicals have been adaptations of Broadway stage productions, and they've ranged from fantastic to just so-so. But Grease 2, when looked at that way, it's very much an original musical, which should be commended. Now, granted, I admit that it's for me, it's not as fun as the original Grease. I mean, I guess looking at it, I haven't seen the original Grease in a little while, but I will be going to see it in a couple of weeks since it's being reissued for the 40th anniversary. We'll go see it again. And I feel like the story in Grease 2 was a little more cohesive. Now, granted, a lot of the moments, it comes off as quite campy and cheesy at times. And while in comparison to other people who love the film, the songs, oddly enough, were like in the deep recesses of my mind, because when I heard them, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that song. And I still remember like choruses from various songs like Cool Rider or Score Tonight or We'll Be Together. And when I hear it, I'm like, oh, wow. It's like I do actually remember the songs, even though I've maybe only seen the movie a few times. But It's a brand new cast: Maxwell Caulfield and Michelle Pfeiffer. We also got Lona Luft, Maureen Teefy, Alison Price, Becker, Pamela Adlon, Adrian Zemed, Peter Fischetti, Kristen McDonald, Leif Green. We have a few returning cast members: Didi Khan, Eve Arden, and from who returned from the original. And then we also have like little characters like Sid Caesar or Tab Hunter and Connie Stevens pop up. And I would have to say, as a kid, I didn't like Grease 2. I just dismissed it. I said, it was like, yeah, it's never because it's the first one, so I don't want to bother watching it. So I think back then I probably just gave it like 2 stars. But having seen Grease 2 for the first time in the theater with an audience who absolutely loved the film, and with also in attendance with the cast and director, and I got a new appreciation for Grease 2. And I don't think it's as bad as I remember it being, and probably most likely like said it was. So, like I said, looking at a film from the past that I didn't think was all that great, and looking at it with new eyes and ears, I actually like Grease 2. I would have to give it, it's nowhere near, of course, as good, in my opinion. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who disagree. Nowhere near as good or as fun as the original Grease, but still, in its own right, it's still an entertaining and fun original musical that features some fun songs, some entertaining numbers, and just overall it's a fun and breezy 2-hour ride that proves to be entertaining. So I would have to give my new appreciation for Grease 2, I would give Grease 2 nowadays 3.5 stars out of 5. So Grease 2, 1982, the sequel to the, at the time, the all-time #1 box office musical. Yeah, give it a second look. It's not as bad as you remember, or not as bad as people are giving it the reputation of being. So Grease 2, 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you like this retro review, hit that like button below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do, so you can stay on top of my new retro reviews as they come in. And if you haven't already done so, please hit that bell button so you can be notified when I do so. So, Grease 2. Have you seen it? What do you think? What are your real thoughts? Don't hold back. So, share and comment below. So until next time, my friends, we'll see you at the movies.